What if I told you that an entire town was tested with something as simple as patience, but they failed? And their mistake led to a punishment so great that they were never the same again. This is the story of the Sabbath Breakers, people who disobeyed Allah's command and faced severe consequences. But what really happened? And what can we learn from their mistake? Let's find out. A long time ago, there was a coastal town. This town was blessed with everything it needed: fresh water, a beautiful sea, and plenty of fish. The people there were skilled fishermen. They relied on the sea for their food and livelihood. But there was one special rule that Allah had given them: they were not allowed to fish on Saturdays. This was their Sabbath, a sacred day of rest and worship. The people knew this command very well. They had been told over and over again, "Do not fish on the Sabbath." But soon, something unusual began to happen. At first, everything was normal. The fishermen caught their fish on the other days of the week, just as they always had. But then, one week, something strange happened. On the Sabbath, the very day they were not allowed to fish, the sea was suddenly full of fish. Large, beautiful fish, more than they had ever seen before, swam close to the shore. It was as if the sea was inviting them to take as much as they wanted. But the moment the Sabbath ended and Sunday arrived, the fish disappeared. There were barely any fish left for the rest of the week. The people became frustrated. Why is this happening? They wondered. Why are the fish appearing only on the day we cannot catch them? This was a test from Allah. He wanted to see if the people would remain patient and obey His command, or if they would give in to temptation. Some of the people remained strong in their faith. They said, "This is a test. We must obey Allah's command, even if it is difficult." But others began to whisper among themselves, "What if we find a way around the rule?" And so, they came up with a plan. On Fridays, just before the Sabbath, they placed large nets and traps in the water. The fish would swim into the traps on the Sabbath, and since they weren't physically catching them that day, they believed it didn't count as breaking the rule. Then, when Sunday arrived, they simply pulled the fish out of the water. They thought they were being clever. They thought they had found a loophole. But could they really deceive Allah? Not everyone in the town agreed with this deception. A group of righteous people warned them, "This is wrong. Do not trick Allah's command. If He has forbidden something, we must obey, even if it is difficult." But the fishermen laughed. "We are not breaking the rule," they said. "We are only taking what was already caught." The righteous people warned them again and again. "Fear Allah. Do not be arrogant. Do not test His patience." But the Sabbath breakers ignored them. Some of the good people, seeing that their warnings were being ignored, decided to leave the town. They feared that Allah's punishment would come, and they did not want to be among those who disobeyed Him. And then, it happened. One day, Allah's punishment struck the town. The disobedient people woke up to find that something terrible had happened to them. They were no longer human. Their bodies had been transformed into something else, something shocking. They had been turned into apes. This was a severe punishment from Allah. They had been given many chances to repent. They had been warned. But they refused to listen, so Allah took away their honor, their dignity, and their human form. As for the righteous ones who had spoken out against the wrongdoing, they were saved. And those who had left the town before the punishment arrived were also spared. This story teaches us an important lesson: Allah's commands are not to be taken lightly. We cannot trick Allah, and we cannot make excuses when we disobey Him. It also teaches us the importance of patience. The people of the town were tested, but instead of trusting Allah, they looked for ways to cheat. If they had remained patient, Allah would have provided for them in another way. And finally, it teaches us the importance of standing up for what is right. The good people of the town warned the Sabbath breakers again and again. Some even left the town to avoid being part of the sin. This shows us that we must always speak up when we see something wrong, even if others do not listen. So, what can we learn from the story of the Sabbath breakers? We should always obey Allah's commands, no matter how difficult they may seem. We should never try to find loopholes to justify wrongdoing. We must have patience and trust in Allah's plan. And we should always stand up for what is right, even if others do not listen. Because in the end, it is not about how clever we think we are, it is about how sincere we are in our obedience to Allah. If you enjoyed this story and learned something valuable, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. Share this story with your friends and family so they, too, can learn the importance of respecting Allah's laws. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing in your faith.